Today we are talking about AJAX requests. What is an AJAX request? Anybody want to tell me?
Asynchronous JavaScript XML something. I don't know.
Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. However, most of the things that we're going to be dealing with these days are actually going to be in JSON. So AJAX, as catchy as that is, might be a more fitting term for it. Okay? So what this basically means is that we can now make some requests directly from our browser using JavaScript. Whereas before, if we make a GET request, what does that usually look like?
Submit.
Well, maybe we're doing like a GET request inside of a form if it was, for instance, if it's like a search that we're doing. Because we want to be able to capture all that information in the URL. If I want to share something that I searched for with you, that may be a GET request, and it would be all up in the URL parameters. But normally, if we just go to a web page, what kind of request are we making? That's a GET request, right? Or if we submit a form, what kind of request might that be, other than a GET request? Might also be a POST request, right? So what AJAX allows us to do is actually make these requests directly from the browser. So once our page is loaded, let's say I wanted to go reach out and get some data for that page and display it on there. I can do that using AJAX. I can make this request using JavaScript, get the data back, and then put it on my page. All right? So today what we're going to experiment with is an API. We talked about that word earlier today for Star Wars. Anybody like Star Wars?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty sweet, right? So essentially what somebody has done is they've created this service that we can dial into. They've got this database of all this information for us. We don't even have to write a server that's going to have this. We can just make calls to his service, his or her, I presume it's a guy, and get back some information and do something with it. Pretty neat, right? So down here, if you see on the main page, I'm going to blow this up a little bit so you guys can see it. It actually tells us what address we can make these requests to. So it's Star Wars or swapi.co/API, and then if I want a specific character, I can go people/the ID of that character. All right. So let's try out a couple requests right here. If we're getting people at 5, so in other words, the person who has an ID of 5, that should give us Leia Organa. Let's grab somebody else. People at 10. Obi-Wan. Nice. Okay. And then there are a couple other endpoints they give us as well. What do we have? So we've got planets, spaceships, vehicles, people, films, and species. All right? So a lot of different endpoints that you guys can experiment with. All we're going to do today, though, is we're just going to practice retrieving different people and then attaching those to the document that we're working on. All right? So the first thing that I'm going to do is just create a new file. Let me save this in the right spot. Okay, we'll just call this starwars.html. Okay, get some boilerplate HTML in there, as we always do. Now, I want to include a script on my page. Anyone know what that is?
The CDN?
I want to include jQuery. Not because I particularly love it, but that's what the demo is going to be in. We're going to be using jQuery. Okay. So just grab this little snippet here. You can get it on Google hosted libraries. We'll paste this guy in. Cool. All right, and then we're going to have a button on the page. What the button's going to allow us to do is when we click that button, we're going to go and retrieve a random person from the Star Wars API. Okay? So let's create a little button here. And then I'll just say click me on that. Let's open this up. Oops. Make sure Star Wars. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to open up my my console as well. So notice here I haven't gotten any console errors, so that means that we've successfully loaded up jQuery. So that's good. What happens if I console log the dollar symbol? Anybody know?
The function.
Yeah. So this is jQuery itself, right? Or if I console log, I haven't created an ID on this button, but let's actually give the button an ID so that we can target it inside of our jQuery code. All right. So let's go ID equals btn. All right. Now I'm going to write some JavaScript down in here. So we'll just open up a script tag. Cool. Let me make this a little bigger for you guys. Okay. Cool. So when we're using jQuery, how do we typically start this out? $. We pass in the document, and then we have a ready function. Okay. And then inside of that, what we can do is whatever code we want to run. So if I want to actually grab this little button right here and listen for clicks, how am I going to do that? Okay, yeah, in vanilla JavaScript, you're absolutely right. I would say document.getElementById, right? And then I would pass in btn. So how are we going to do it in jQuery? $, good. So like that. And then we're listening for a click event. And then inside that click event, I want to pass in what's called a callback function. So what do I want to run when that button is clicked? All right, and we'll make it a function for right now, and we're just going to console log button clicked, all right, to see if that's actually working. All right, let me refresh this guy. Okay, so every time we click that button, we're actually getting our console log, so that part is working as expected. Okay, now we said we wanted to get a random person from the Star Wars API. I happen to know that the API has 88 different people in it, so how would we go about getting a random ID? We want to start from 1 and we want to go all the way to 88. That's good. Good. So let's just say, I'm going to use const because you guys like that and I do too. Random equals math.floor. And then we're saying math.random. Oops. Random. Okay, what do I want to multiply that by? 88. Right. And then since that should give me something all the way from 0 to 87, right? So what should I do with that now?
89.
Just add 1 to it, right? Should be good. Okay. So let's just console log out this random so that we know. Have that. Okay. Go back here. Refresh this guy. Let's get some random numbers. So it looks like we're doing pretty well, right? We got all the way down to 1. We should be able to get all the way up to 88. I don't know if that could take a while. We got up to 86. All right. All right, so good enough, right? It's a college try. Now let's actually work on making some AJAX requests. So I've got the jQuery documentation open here, and this is where we can find out how do we actually make these requests. So there are a couple different ways that we can do it. The main way is by using $.ajax. Not Ajax setup. I'm trying to get to Ajax. Is that up here? No, 1 second here. Ajax. Okay, here we are. So jQuery.ajax. And notice that, oops, this is what I want here. So it takes a settings object, which takes a whole bunch of different which has a whole bunch of different attributes in it, or properties. So we've got a data property, and that's if I wanted to send along some data with my request. We have a data type property. Just tell the type of data that you're expecting back from the server. Okay, so if I was expecting JSON, I could put that in there. Not strictly necessary, so we probably won't do that. What else? An error callback. So that would run if there was some problem with the network, or maybe if there was some problem with their API. What other callback are we interested in? We also have down here a success callback. That's what we're really interested in, right? So when that data comes back, what do we want to actually do with it? And you can see what the success callback takes in. It has some different parameters. So it has data, which is the actual data that came back with the request. The status, so was it successful? And then also the actual AJAX, the original AJAX request. Does anyone understand why this is even included? Probably not yet, right? But what jQuery is it is essentially an abstraction on top of JavaScript. So it simplifies some of the code writing that we do, and that third thing that comes back is actually just the request itself that was made with vanilla JavaScript. Okay? So more than likely, you guys will never end up needing to touch that, but I'm just going to console log out the whole thing so that we can see what does that even look like. Any questions so far with what we've done? So we're getting a random number. Let's actually make an AJAX request. And let me grab this little URL here too. So we want to go /people and then the ID of the person that we're looking for. All right. So let's comment that guy out, and then I'm going to say .ajax. And then we're going to say the URL is going to be this string that we have, plus we're going to append some information to it. Whoops. What are we going to tack onto the end of this guy?
Random.
The actual random that we calculated. Yeah, exactly. And then we, as we said, we need to have this success function, which is going to allow us to do something with the data. So if I say my success function is just going to be console.log, it's going to log out all of those things that we got back with our request. Okay? So let's just try that out. Go over here to our page, click the button. Okay? So now you can see we're actually starting to get some data back. We got Akbar, height 180, mass 83. It's pretty cool that's mass, right? What? Yeah, look at this, Corday. Am I pronouncing that right? All right. What else we got? Roos Tarpals. Okay. So let's look at these different things that we got back. So this was the actual request, right? We said that was the third parameter in that function. So it tells us all these things, the ready state and so forth. You guys don't really need to worry about that so much. Do you see the success in here? Sort of? Yeah, so that was the second argument. That was what was the status of the request. But the first argument, again, is the one that we're most interested in, and that will be the actual data that came back with our request. All right? So let's just change what we're console logging here. So I'm going to create a function inside here. And then the first argument needs to be the data. The name of that, however, can be different if you choose. I can call that whatever I want. Okay? In fact, let me just call it stuff. Okay? So if I console log stuff, I'm going to see what came back through the API. The actual data. All right? There it is. Adigalia. Okay, so we get a birth year, created, edited, eye color. We actually get everything but the ID that was associated with that person. Kind of strange. They don't include the ID back with that request, but we already know what it is because we're using that random, right?
Doesn't have download log
You saw ID down here somewhere?
I thought like the URL equal 55.
What is she looking for?
Yeah, no, that's correct. It is part of the URL. Yeah. It's just that it wasn't an actual property on the object. So we can't just say, okay, the ID is this. But that's all right, because we know what it is since we were the ones who generated it, right? Yes?
On the platform, instead of .ajax, they have this .game.
Yeah, and we're gonna do that too. So let's show the other way. As Hector was saying, there's another way to make these requests if we're just simply getting something. So the shorthand for that would be $.get. Okay, and then instead of actually passing in an object, what I can pass in is just the URL that I'm trying to get. So let's just strip some of this stuff out. Okay. Let me go back to the docs real quick. If we're doing $.get, and then that's the second argument, the success function, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't get there. Okay, cool. So instead of doing success in this way inside of an object, we're just simply going to pass this as the second argument to the get function, get method. All right, so I'll just, oops. Holy moly. My indentation went crazy. Sorry. Okay. Here you go. Let's try that, see if there's any difference there. So this is just a shorthand for the main Ajax method. Okay? So we're getting the exact same data, right? Now the reason I wanted to show you guys the actual Ajax method is so that you know that there's another way. If I wanted to do a post request, I could actually do that with $.ajax. So inside that options object that we made, in addition to the URL property, there's also a method property where I could specify that I want this to be a post request. Okay? So that's all fine and great. How do we actually put this on the page, though? Exactly. So we need to have some kind of space, placeholder on our page where we're going to take some stuff in. So let's just say the ID of this equals, I don't know, we'll call it contents. Okay. So when that data comes in, I just want to append basically like the first name and last name. Fair enough? We don't need to like put all their data. Actually, I think there is no first and last, right? It's just name.
They're all different.
What?
Well, some of the
Akbar.
aliens have, some of them have first and last names, some of them have like 20 names,
Oh, wow.
Can we just iterate through the object and just post it all?
And he was a rank. He was admin in that bar.
Yeah. It's a trap.
That's a good idea. I actually like that. Let's just work our way through the actual object and then just we'll append all those things to the div, right? All right. So let's do this. So inside here, when we console log stuff, instead of doing that, let's iterate through that object. I'll show you guys how to do that. So object.keys, and then we'll take in stuff. What do you want to do for each? You guys haven't seen any of this stuff, but basically I'm taking each key that's going to be inside that object and I'm going to do something with it. So I'm probably going to append it to that div right there. Okay. So we'll say for each key, actually I'll do a function here so I don't confuse you guys. For each key, what we want to do is we want to do $, and then we want to target that contents div, right? So we'll say hash contents, and then we'll say append. And when I append, I can attach some kind of HTML to that div. All right. So let's just say we'll do a p tag like that, and then I'm going to concatenate the actual key. So the key is like that, and then I'm going to concatenate like a colon right here, and then we'll put the value in there. So how do I get the value? Stuff at key, correct. So it won't be dot key because my key is unknown at this point. I don't know what the actual value of that's going to be. So I'll just use bracket notation and do it like that. Okay. And then I'll have my ending p tag. That. So that should actually append a whole bunch of different things to that contents div every time we select another person, right? Okay. Pretty cool, right? And then if I click it again, it's just going to keep adding more to my page. All right, so my second character was Greedo. First one was Jocasta New. And then if I click this again, Ramus Antilles. Okay. You guys want me to do anything else with it, or did you have any questions with what we covered there? Yes.
I think you could also use for out or for in.
Yeah, we could do that. Absolutely. Let's do that. Oops. So we'll say for, let's say let key in stuff. And then inside there, we can still have the same exact logic. So we can just move this up in here. Should work the same way, right? Mace Windu? Windu. Palpatine.
Wow.
Alright, sick.
We do it now.
Yeah. Look at that. Palpatine. Now we got Zam Wessel. Zam Wessel. Alright.
And eyes?
Anything else you guys want me to do with this demo, or does it pretty much make sense how we're making these requests?
Yep.
So one thing I want to point out real quick, just so you guys don't run into this pitfall, what if I actually tried to do something with stuff outside of here? Exactly. Right? It's only available to us inside this callback function. So sometimes when people first start seeing AJAX requests, they think that they can start referencing something that's only available inside the callback function, but of course it hasn't been defined. It's not available in this scope right here, where my cursor is. Yes?
What if you create a variable like bar underscore stuff and then set it, or just define it and then set it to that?
So if I define it up here, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do that. So let's say let stuff.
Or
Like-
like underscore stuff and then set underscore stuff to stuff in the function.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you. So inside this function, when we get it back, let's say underscore stuff equals stuff, right? Okay. But however, what will stuff still be down here? Like if I console log this here, what's stuff going to be? Undefined, or yeah, exactly.
I went through that too.
It's undefined because yeah, he's actually had that happen. So because what's happened is this code inside here, our GET request is running asynchronously, which means that the interpreter is going to go through it line by line, and we're only going to get inside this GET request once we click a button, right?
There's another way. We have the option of not putting that callback function in the .get function, and then we can store that $.get to a variable, and that variable would be a promise object, and then we can use it everywhere.
Oh, they're not ready for promises yet, man. Promises are coming though. They're not like.
How would
that
we
far
get
out.
around this issue of not being able to access variables on the Xcode?
Well, so the way you work around it is that you only do what you're trying to do inside the callback itself.
It's not very flexible.
Well, and as Alan was saying, we have some newer ways of handling this with promises and async await, but we're not going to cover that right now.
So sometimes when you do like the click, why do they put the event in the? Do you use the event already function for the click as the key?
Oh yeah,
What's
let's.
the point of that?
That is actually the JavaScript event itself. So in here, if we console log e, it's a reference to the actual underlying JavaScript event that click is connected to. So if I wanted to, let me just comment that out, and then we'll see what that looks like. Here, did I console log the event? No. That was jQuery, right?
They need the
Oh, I didn't even put it in here. Whoops. Yeah, we need to actually. My bad. All right, here. So, real quick.
You log it in the function.
What did I do?
You logged it on the top.
Oh yeah.
Already
Oh, Jesus. Okay, sorry guys. Okay, let's get rid of all of that, and then let's just log it right here. Right? Console log e. Okay, cool. So we're good. Okay. So this gives us a reference to the actual JavaScript event that underlies what just happened. So if I want to see what was the target of this event, in other words, what element caused this event, I would say e.target.
So we don't. That was only basically useful in JavaScript. In jQuery, we only use it.
You might use it in jQuery.
'Cause that's just like you can just
So see if I actually log e.target, it's giving me back a reference to the actual element that caused this event.
Can you just use this? Call that function? Talk about like this.
Yeah, let's do that. Right.
This sometimes lost track.
Yeah, be careful when you're using this because you may think it references one thing when it actually doesn't. So in that case, it does. Yeah. Good. So that's also another important point when you guys are working on things, and if I'm in the documentation here and I want to see, okay, what does the .click method give me? I think it would be jQuery.click. No results. Should I just be typing in .click? Okay. So you can see right there it actually takes in an event. And then you might be able to get some more information on this if you click on this. The standard events in the document object model are these: blur, focus, load, resize, and so forth. So that's just kind of like a small little bit of looking through the documentation. Sometimes you may wonder, okay, what am I going to get back when this event fires, right? Or what's the function signature that I need of the callback that I need to pass in here? What does that look like? All right, let me see thumbs on this, guys. So. All right. Any clarifications you guys want to have though before we break?
Well, is that when you multiply by 88 plus 1, can you just do 89, or what's the benefit of that?
You would go from 0 to 89.
Well, so here's the thing. So math.random, it gives us a number between 0 and 1, but not inclusive of 1. Right? So if we were flooring that, and which means that it would start from 0 and go all the way up to, 87 point something, some high decimal. So when we floor it, it's going to go from 0 to 87, and then we just added 1 to it to handle that, so that it at least starts from
Because
1.
like with the deck
goes
of
up to
cards,
88.
it's like you're taking out one card when you're dealing.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, because I had a random card that I was dealing, and I was multiplying it by 51. Because then you're taking out of the deck, right? But should you just do 52 minus 1?
But would you always want to deal the top card?
You should be able to just check what is the length of the cards at that point, right? So you can restrict your random to whatever's in the deck at that given time.
Okay. I just mean like for the multiplier there. Like we multiplied it by 51.
Yeah, yours would be whatever you'd multiply it by the length of the deck at that point,
So I
right?
just-
Can we do
Yeah,
dots?
and then you
wouldn't wanna
and
deal
then you
the
dot
random.
floor it.
You only want to deal the top card,
Dot what?
not the random.
Dots, you want to get rid of the one.
Yeah, if the deck's shuffled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would that just have the possibility of getting 0? And there's no 0 in the ID.
Yeah, see, that would still leave us the possibility of getting 0, right? Because if we got actual 0, the seal of that would still be 0.
And what's the problem of shuffling it twice?